Hello and welcome to a very special episode of On Deck with Avoya, your weekly travel update. I'm your host, Chris Greene, Director of Network Expansion, and we thank you for tuning in today. It's a very special episode for several reasons. One, it's our first broadcast of the fourth quarter, and that always affords us a chance to look back and reflect on all the things that have happened so far in this year. Two, we have the most amazing Meet the Team guest today. Jeff Anderson, co-president of Avoya Travel, is joining us for an exclusive Q&A session. Jeff and I are going to cover all of the big topics concerning the state of the industry, and I'm very grateful and excited for this discussion here in just a few minutes. And three, and a big finally, the land borders between the United States and our neighbors, both Canada to the north and Mexico to the south, are finally reopening to land traffic. This has been a story we followed for the last year since the inception of On Deck with Avoya, and we'll have the latest in our Eye on the Industry feature here in just a moment. We're also going to touch base on our recently reopened New to Travel program for those new to the industry and just in the research phase of opening their own agency. And we'll discuss our two ongoing promotions for experienced travel professionals. And of course, make sure you have all the ways to get in touch and start that conversation, because that's our main goal and purpose for On Deck with Avoya. And that's to engage with you, the travel professional or the new to travel professional, and give you information on our best-in-class resources to see if a shared success relationship with Avoya Travel makes sense for you and your business. So let's kick things off on this week's edition of On Deck with Avoya, your weekly travel update with a few industry insights and our Eye on the Industry feature. Well, our top story, after 19 months of being closed, the Biden administration has announced that the land borders between the United States and both Canada and Mexico will reopen in early November, but only to vaccinated visitors. Now, the lifting of the bans will effectively mark the reopening of the United States to travelers and tourism and signals a new phase in the recovery from the pandemic after the country closed its borders in March of 2020. Quoting Roger Dow, president of the U.S. Travel Association, after months of closure, the reopening of U.S. land borders to vaccinated visitors will bring a welcome surge in travel from our two top source markets of inbound travel, Canada and Mexico. Now, the exact date of the reopening has not been announced, but the news is certainly a welcome sign and vital boost to travel advisors everywhere. Remember, if your current situation doesn't allow you to tap into this lucrative market, then you definitely should reach out and start the conversation, because the resources available to those in the Avoya Travel Network will allow them to benefit where it matters most. We're talking bookings and more commissions generated. Our friends at the Carnival Corporation made news this week with the naming of their new president for Princess Cruises. John Paget will head up that cruise line now and oversee all operation for the line's 14-ship fleet. Paget has been with the Carnival Corporation since 2014 as their Chief Experience and Innovation Officer, responsible for guest experience innovation, development, creation, and operation integration. In his new role, Paget will retain leadership of the corporation's innovation unit. Now, one of the main innovations that is credited to Mr. Paget is the innovative Princess Cruise Ocean platform. And before working with the Carnival Corporation, Paget worked for the Walt Disney Corporation and was the head of the team that launched many Disney mainstays, such as their Fast Pass. Celebrity cruise ship Captain Kate McHugh is on the move again. In an exclusive story in USA Today, it was announced that Captain Kate, the first and only American woman to captain a major cruise ship, is embarking on a new leg of her career by captaining the Celebrity Beyond. Now, that brand new ship is expected to launch in April of 2022. To say I'm honored is an understatement, Captain Kate is quoted as saying. In the industry for over 2 decades, Captain Kate McHugh previously captained Celebrity Cruises' Celebrity Edge, the Celebrity Summit, and the Celebrity Equinox. The Beyond, which Celebrity touts as its largest and most luxurious ship to date, is scheduled to set sail on a Western Europe cruise from Southampton, England on April 27th for 10 nights with McHugh at the helm. Captain Kate joins the ship full-time in January, with sea trials expected to begin in January 20th. That's in advance of the Beyond's maiden voyage. Now, I've had the chance of sailing with Captain Kate, and she goes out of her way to create an amazing onboard experience, and one that I'm sure your clients will absolutely love. Bookings for the Beyond are live. And if you need a new partner with better relationships with top vendors like Celebrity, so that news like this leads to more bookings for your agency, please contact us right away. Remember, relationships matter, and we're proud that at Avoya Travel, ours are in the elite category. And finally, a little bit of a tricky story for me to share. And the reason I say it's a bit tricky is that it involves a competitor making a big change to what they offer independent travel agents. But the fact is, this is a story that's been picked up by the travel media, and I just really feel it's important to discuss. So World Travel Holdings is retiring its Cruises Inc. host agency business, and that's going to impact hundreds and hundreds of their independent contractors. We're going to potentially be left without a partner for their independent agency. Now, World Travel Holdings did say it's focusing on other aspects of their business and has avenues for their current ICs to stay within that umbrella, but the change was a necessary step given the current environment. As the director of network expansion for Avoya Travel, as a previous travel agency owner myself, I would only encourage those impacted to do their due diligence and research before deciding on their future. My team of network expansion specialists will be going above and beyond for those impacted. They're going to schedule extra discussions, offer exclusive demonstrations of our award-winning technology, and are happy to answer all of your questions. As the industry's #1 host agency, and that's as voted by the travel industry itself, we're excited about our future in the industry and would be happy to go over all the important details of our shared success business model. Now, the changes at World Travel Holdings are expected to be finalized by the end of the year, so don't delay. You don't want their decision to impact your wave season for 2022 because, in my personal opinion, wave season for next year is going to be absolutely amazing. Well, as we move forward with this week's very special edition of On Deck with Avoya, your weekly travel update, I must say I'm very excited for today's Meet the Team guest. Jeff Anderson, Avoya Travel's co-president, joining me here in just a moment for a very special look at the travel industry, its past, present, and future. We're also going to discuss Jeff's amazing history in the travel business and his family's amazing family legacy in the travel industry. You see, Jeff is part of a third generation of Andersons to lead our company, and we're going to also discuss a few fun facts about Jeff Anderson along the way, too. Avoya Travel is proud to be the 6th-time consecutive winner of Host Agency of the Year. And the reason the industry keeps voting us as #1 is that our resources are just at a higher level. So please reach out and let's start the conversation. We're more than happy to have a network expansion specialist engage with you and see if this is a great fit. So let's welcome in our special Meet the Team guest, Jeff Anderson, co-president of Avoya Travel. Jeff, thanks so much for your time today, and we really appreciate you being our guest.
Well, thank you, Chris. It is an absolute honor to be here. Little excited to finally have the opportunity to kind of sync up with everybody. So I've been watching the show, and just it's an honor to be here.
Well, thank you so much. Jeff, before we talk about some of the current events and get your thoughts on the state of the travel industry, I wanted to maybe take a quick trip back, if you don't mind. You've been in the travel industry pretty much since birth. What's your earliest memory of your family being involved in the travel industry? Did you have any of those like special jobs when you were younger to earn allowance money and things like that?
Yeah, so I have to go all the way back to 1986. I was 5 years old, so I'm not shy of my age. I'm still a kid at heart. And yeah, in 1986, the biggest kind of indoor mall in the North County of San Diego was opening. And we had a brick and mortar location in there. And my dad used to bring us over from school after school, obviously. And he'd give us a penny a piece to stamp the brochures. And so we'd crank out like 200 or 300 brochures, and just right around the corner was a comic book store. And so we crank out 300 brochures that we would stamp and then go buy comic books. So that was at an early age, and I was hooked on this idea that if I did a little work and I performed, then I got comic books. So it felt pretty good.
Now, what about like as you continue to earn that comic book money? Do you remember when it all really kind of clicked and you said, this is a pretty amazing industry. I think I want to be part of this longer term.
Oh, man. I think kind of growing up in the industry, everybody always, like you realize these perks and benefits that you have growing up because you're on vacation like pretty often, and they're cooler vacations than a lot of your friends. And, we grew up in a family with 6 kids. And so my parents would take us cool places. I don't think it was really until college where I realized, oh, shoot, if I don't go back into the travel industry because I worked there during the summers and the old trade shows that we used to do for travelers. And it was halfway through college, I was like, oh, shoot, if I pursue law or politics, both were interesting to me at the time. As I look back now, I'm like, whew. But I kind of realized like, I'm going to lose the lifestyle that I grew up with. And my mentality at that point was like, I don't need to be a millionaire to travel like one. This industry affords a tremendous lifestyle. And so I kind of pivoted and I was like, yeah, I'm going to go in the family business at this point. So yeah, it took me a while to figure it out. But
well, we're glad it all worked out the way it did, for sure.
Me too. It's been pretty rad.
What was the first like big trip that you remember being on? Like any place special that you went that just kind of started to shape who you are today?
You know, my dad took us on an Alaska cruise on Royal Caribbean. It was a dad trip. And so he took just some of the kids and left my mom and the younger siblings at home. And we just had an absolute blast getting soaked on as like we were going down the river rafting from the Mendenhall Glacier and just getting absolutely drenched. I was like, I never want to stop doing this. Like, this is the coolest thing ever. And then we were in Ketchikan and we were in a float plane and we would like fly over bears. And I was like, oh my gosh, like it's mind blowing. So I think, you know, the nature aspect of this, the environment, like I love all of that stuff. I love being outside in adventure. I can't really sit down very long. So yeah, so it just kind of opened my eyes to this, and obviously doing it with my siblings was epic. So yeah, that was probably one of like the early ones that caught my eye.
That's a pretty amazing memory. Our special featured guest today on Deck with Avoya is Jeff Anderson, co-president of Avoya Travel. Jeff, in my open, I mentioned how you're part of a third generation of Andersons to lead this company. You're the grandson, you're the son, you're the nephew of, in my opinion, true travel legends. I mean, Brad and Van Anderson, Avoya Travel's co-founders, are members of the CLIA Hall of Fame. They were both recently honored with Lifetime Achievement Awards. And that's not even to mention that your grandparents, who I only had a chance to briefly meet, but Pal and Pat Anderson, from what I understand, might have been the coolest people in the travel business ever. As you continue that Anderson family involvement in the travel industry, what does that family legacy mean to you personally, Jeff? And as a follow-up, how does that family legacy benefit our current and our future members of the Avoya Travel Network?
That's a tough question to answer. Like, there's so much pressure. It's just kind of the way that we were raised. Like, you've got to be your A game all the time. And yeah, of course, there's going to be family time, you know, when you come home from work, but you still always got the brain spinning. My grandfather and grandmother were very, very driven people. They were always full of ideas, especially my grandfather. And so as a third generation, well, first of all, like, I'm super proud to be in this segment of the industry. It is absolutely vital. I love the fact that it's relational. Like, I'm a big tech guy as well, but there's something really unparalleled in value with working with travel agents. And so, like, my grandfather was a travel agent, my grandmother was, my dad was. So I consider myself to be a third generation travel agent. I just do it a little differently, not nearly as well as they could do. But, you know, I've got my own little flavor on it. We get the opportunity to partner with tons and tons of travel agencies in our network. And so I think that, there's a lot of pressure to perform, right? There's a family legacy that's much bigger than just Jeff. And I've got to ensure that, you know, the Anderson name is carried on in a positive light, which means that then I have to take care of like everybody. And I actually, like, I love it. The pressure doesn't destroy me, hasn't yet. It can be a burden, but I love working with people. I love seeing them succeed. They can do things that I definitely can't do. Like, I'm bad at planning vacations. Like, you don't want me to plan your vacation. Like, but I'm pretty good at being a nerd. and I'm pretty good at marketing, and I'm pretty good at building tech. So, just trying to find people that we can create these like symbiotic relationships with is a heavy focus for me, and kind of the way that I've approached this. Over 18 years now since I graduated from college. So it's been a lot of fun.
I definitely want to touch base on that whole shared success concept that I think you were alluding to here in just a moment. But before we do that, one of the things that when I first became associated with Avoya Travel, and before I worked for the company, I was an affiliate, I had my own agency, I was a proud member of the Avoya Travel Network. And I remember one of the first things that really stood out to me about Avoya Travel, and I was really touched by it personally, was just how important it was to give back and how much that meant to Avoya Travel. It amazed me that it was so important to the company's values, and I think it gives heart and soul to all of the best-in-class resources that are available to the Avoya Travel Network. Where did that philanthropic commitment come from, and why does it mean so much to Avoya Travel and to the Anderson family?
Oh, man. I think I'll go back to the comment that I made earlier, like we're just very relational people. Now we all handle relationships different. I'm not saying that I'm like the best relationship person ever, because my friends would say like, Jeff, you're not actually that good at relationships, but we believe in loyalty. We believe that people of all circumstances are intrinsically valuable. There's certainly a faith component to giving back. Like we've been incredibly privileged. Like we were born in America, like that's amazing already. And we've been super fortunate to find great people to work with. And we've built this up in an industry for a very long time, met a lot of super cool people on the agency side, on the supplier side, on the tech side that have helped us get to this point. And so I think the logical expression here is like, we got a lot of good things going on. It's time for us to give back. So, I am absolutely of the opinion, like, it's a joy to be able to give. And it's kind of easy. And I think at times, like it's easier to write a check than to actually get in there with our own two hands and do it, which is why we started those like meal preps that we were doing years ago. Like it's important to do things with your two hands. And it's why when I travel, like I won't always go on vacation. I've had the privilege of going to different places and places that I was not very comfortable in. I didn't have air conditioning and I didn't have running water and no electricity. But no, I think it's just intrinsic to kind of who we are, how we were raised. And again, like I said, it's really largely faith driven.
I remember the first time I was at a national conference, and right in the middle of it, we stopped and we did the whole packaging of the rice. And when I got home from that national conference, every single person in my family, every single person in my inner circle, I couldn't stop talking about not only how amazing it was to participate in that and what I got out of that personally, but how impressed I was that the company would stop, like a hard stop in the middle of this major event, to focus all of the attention on something like that. And it was at that moment that I knew, wow, this Avoya Travel really is a different kind of animal in the best kind of ways.
Listen, like money is amazing, but it really only gets you so far, right? So plenty of studies have shown you can't ever get enough money. Like it doesn't end up satisfying absolutely everything. There's kind of this minimum threshold that you have to hit. Once you hit that, every dollar on top of that really doesn't change the way that you're feeling about life. And so we do have to stop ourselves and just say, like, there's got to be more than just money and success. Like those things are awesome. Don't want to take away from them. But I hope that's not all of our, so I had this near-death experience in 2015. And I was like, oh, shoot, if I would have died before my 35th birthday, that would have sucked. And what would people say at my funeral? And I was like, I guess there's a few things that people would say because they felt obligated to say something nice. But gosh, there's so many more opportunities that we have. And quite frankly, COVID has made life pretty difficult. And so now that the world's opening back up again, lots of opportunities are in our future.
Absolutely. Jeff, one of the reasons that we wanted to have you as a guest at this particular point in time, the end of the third quarter, starting the fourth quarter, is I've always felt that decisions a business owner makes in the fourth quarter of the year are some of the most crucial and critical for future success. So I wanted to ask you your thoughts on where we stand as an industry now, where Avoya Travel as a company stands now, kind of both looking back over the last year and a half, 19 months since this whole COVID crisis, but more importantly, looking out the windshield and looking forward the next year, year and a half.
Holy moly. So it's a great question. Obviously, COVID has made this radically complex. And so I'll just comment real quickly. I don't know where COVID is going. I believe that there's a lot of very good tools that we now have in the tool chest as Americans, as citizens of this world, and we ought to be deploying those as radically as we possibly can. Now, that's not going to prevent virus mutations that none of us want and none of us control. So let's put that aside, because that's just an unknown variable that none of us can really truly plan for, right? Nobody planned for this to begin with. I don't think that we can actually solve for it going forward at the magnitude that we've seen over the last 18, 19 months. So putting that aside, what does the industry look like? Dude, I'm pumped. Can I call you dude?
You can.
So I've never been more excited. When, one of the other things that I said when I joined this industry full time back in 2003, I was like, somebody's got to inherit this industry. And I thought at the time we were like a really big deal. Well, that was right after 9/11, and we got really small in a short period of time, just like the rest of the travel industry did. But I was like pretty excited about how big we were in San Diego. And I was like, well, my dad seems like he's pretty old, and my uncle's pretty old. My grandparents are pretty old. Like, they can't last forever. Little did I know, almost 20 years later, I still feel like there's an industry to be inherited here. Those that have come before me and a lot of our competitors, they're solid. They're working hard. They're sticking with it. We've been very fortunate to find unique ways of working with independent agencies as a result of all of the changes over the years. So with that philosophy in mind, I still think I've got a lot of life left in me. This is like the greatest industry that's ever existed in Jeff's mind. And now COVID seems to be getting behind us. Ships are starting to operate again. Borders are opening. And that's a really, really, really big one. Borders are opening again. Why wouldn't this be the most exciting time ever? Literally, we just survived. Okay. Not everybody did survive. I mean, there's an enormous amount of gratitude that we've got to have just through survival. And I think that we owe it to people that didn't survive, to carry on their legacy, to carry on their hard work. It's been brutal. So, but we can turn from that and take away from it the silver lining of massive opportunity. People need travel literally now more than ever. We always have looked for these sales and marketing excuses, it's good for your family, go adventure, go learn new culture, try new cuisine, enjoy different music. All of those things have always been intrinsic to the value of travel, right? It brings people together in ways that many things just can't do. But now I'm no, for real. It's never, ever, ever been more important for you to spend time with your wife on vacation. It's never been more important for you guys to get away as a family, even a multi-gen, because we don't have much time in this life. And so I'm pumped. I think the business is just going to keep getting better and better again. I don't know what's going to happen with COVID. We are very cautious in our planning. We're pretty conservatively oriented with the way that we plan financially, but we've got some cool stuff that we've been working on. And I'm very humbled by the people that stuck with us this whole time, whether that's employees or independent agencies, suppliers. And so why shouldn't we now have higher expectations of what we can do coming out of this. People need us now, like in what we do, they need us now more than ever. So why wouldn't this be maybe the most important next few years in the industry's history?
I mean, it's kind of fun to be part of something that's trying to, invent the future of an industry and invent it now. I mean, that's one of the things that my team tells people about Avoya Travel, is that we're very forward thinking. I mean, and so I can see why you would be optimistic about the future, not only for Avoya, but for the leisure travel industry in general.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've filled the building and homes with our remote employees with a lot of techie people. And, when there's a reason why I bought a Tesla way earlier than I probably should have. I wanted to see what the future was like. There's a reason why I use both Android phones and iPhones. I'm an Android guy. I love iPhones. I experiment with them probably about every year, but we have to be thinking about what the future looks like. And so, you don't need to be bleeding edge to be ultra successful, but you do need to be cutting edge. And I think that's just kind of innate in who we are. We like building new things.
Absolutely. One of the questions, Jeff, that I ask everyone that's in our Meet the Team feature is how them and their teams pivoted to meet the demands of our network of affiliates and industry partners during this COVID crisis. How did your role as the company's co-president change, and what things did you have to pivot on to help our network stay strong through all of this?
Well, listen, it was really, really hard, and we had to part ways with a lot of very, very valuable people, and that was awful. So there were very, very difficult decisions that we had to make, but there was also a lot of clarity, kind of at the time of if you don't do this, then you go away too. And so, when your back is up against the rope, you start to realize that survival is actually a pretty good driver of decisions. And you start to realize well, if I don't do X, Y, and Z, which by the way, even in the good times, those are still the most important things to be doing, then you aren't going to survive. So our big pivot at the very beginning was we had to focus on our independent agencies. We knew that what was happening and what the federal government was doing, we were super duper excited that independent contractors, literally for the first time ever, could get these benefits that were normally reserved just for employees. So that was really critical. But the reality was that we need to focus on our technology, on our systems, on our support, so that our independent agency network could make it through this as effectively as possible, because it has been so difficult. So all of our departments kind of migrated their focus over towards network support. And, we've shown a lot of love on suppliers, some of whom maybe haven't quite treated us the way that we would have hoped. But it was also partnering with suppliers. And again, this is we're still people. And so a lot of people made decisions that they wouldn't really want to make in normal circumstances. A lot of tears on phone calls, which really were very unusual. But I think people felt comfortable being vulnerable with us, and likewise us with them. So no doubt that's still the focus. Our network, they're the heroes of vacation planning. And without them, families don't get that maximum value on their trip. And that's not just a financial statement. It's, how are they actually spending their time on their trip? Right? Is it effective, or are they bogged down with problems? So yeah, very, very, very focused on IAs. Of course, we love travelers, but everything that we can do to help the independent agencies helps travelers too. So
absolutely. Let's talk for just a second, Jeff, about our business model. One of the things that makes Avoya so different is our shared success model that ties both Avoya Travel success and the independently owned members of the Avoya Travel Network success together. What does that mean to you, the word shared success, and why do you think it matters so much and is so valuable in our business model?
What it means is that I don't want anybody to fail. At the end of the day, there's there's plenty of opportunity out there, whether it's with doing what we do or other corners of the industry or outside of this industry. So, not everybody is going to succeed 100% of the time. And so there is some tolerance for people finding other places that they're going to do better. But shared success is a big deal to us. If we're going to win and we're going to grow perhaps faster than the rest of the market, or we're going to develop new technology that's going to empower people to work more efficiently, we've got to make sure that success permeates in every corner of the business. It cannot just exist for independent agencies and not for Avoya. It can't just exist for owners and not for employees. Can't just exist for the network members, but not for suppliers. Like, we're so interwoven with the way that shared success has to work. So just philosophically, again, it comes back to just the way that we think people ought to be loved, people ought to be treated. I don't care what you do or don't have, what you do or don't look like. Like, I don't know, people are amazing and they're complicated. They're not always the easiest, but we still want to love on them. So I think that's just our general philosophy on sharing.
Jeff, let's talk for a second about you, the person outside of Avoya Travel. Now, I know you said that, you get home, you try to make sure there's some family time, but it's hard to decompress. But what are some things that you like to do for fun?
Oh, man. Okay, so there's a pre-COVID question, a during COVID question, and then an after COVID question. So pre-COVID, it was going on vacations. Just everything that I could do to be on vacation with my family was like the most important thing. Well, I would sacrifice nearly anything just to do that. During COVID, I'll just say it. I got addicted to TikTok, people. No, I don't have a TikTok account that you can watch. That would be terrible. There'd be no good content there. But there's so many fascinating things that I have learned and fascinating things that I would like to unlearn and unwatch through TikTok. So that's been a little bit of a problem. But going forward, my kids are 15 now, just turned 15, and 17 years old. So I've got a senior. Dude's going to be gone in less than a year off to college. So at this point, it's just about spending time with my boys and my wife as much as possible, whatever that means. I try to pack a little bit too much into each and every day. So never a dull moment in the Anderson house.
Seems a good time to ask this question, but what about a fourth generation of leadership from the Anderson family? I mean, as your kids are getting older, are they showing any interest in following in Dad's footsteps?
They are. My oldest son especially, I think he's now just starting to realize he doesn't have that much time left to figure out what he wants to do with his life, because college advisors and picking college really forces an emphasis there. And even just a couple of days ago, right before he went on a college tour, he was telling me, he's like, "Dad, do you think we're going to ever be able to work together like you got to work with Grandpa and great grandpa?" And I was like, "Dude, we better be able to. That'll be so much fun." And I said, I don't know exactly what it'll be. And I said, "Dude, you've got to earn your stripes. You're not going to start at the top. You're going to start at the very bottom." And we've been grooming both of my boys for this for a super long time. They used to, when they were younger, I didn't have brochures for them to stamp anymore, but we would make them walk around and serve cups of water to people. So this is when they were 4 and 6 years old. They would just walk around in the office and they would serve everybody a cup of water and hand it to them. And it's really important that they understand how valuable all of our people are, that they've all worked very, very hard to be there. They've given up time with their families to be working with us today. So yeah, and definitely both of them have kind of come up with their different ideas or takes on what they should be doing. They want to know well, why don't we own cruise ships? Because they're super cool. Or, hey, Dubai was a ton of fun. Why don't we do something because you can build anything imaginable in Dubai. So yes, I let their minds wander. Would love to see them a part of the industry. They don't have to work for me. I don't know how good of a boss I would be to my own kids, but yeah, they definitely have interest.
Cool. Now that we're starting to be able to travel a little bit more freely and we're seeing various parts of the world, and of course it goes back to what you said earlier with the technology and the therapeutics and things like that that are at our disposal, but are there any bucket list trips that you're just really looking forward to? I mean, you've had this lifetime of great adventures, but anything still left on the list that you really can't wait to lock in, Jeff?
Yeah, I think that, that's a super, super, super long list, right? And I haven't memorized it alphabetically yet, but Antarctica is very high on the list. I still haven't been to Australia. And so I really want to get out there. I'd like to get down to Galapagos. That just feels fascinating to me. And I've really not spent time in Asia. So like there's Japan and China and Thailand and Vietnam, like the list just goes on and on and on. But, being like growing up in travel, you always everything's always on your list. Like anytime that I ever sit down and talk with a supplier, I prep for those meetings. I'm like, this is the greatest product that's ever existed. Like, why wouldn't everybody want to take this vacation? And then I meet with them and I get even more psyched up. So then I go home and I'm like, guys, like we have to do this. And like, we don't have time to waste. So, but I'd say like Antarctica, Galapagos, those are probably the short, like at the very top of my list.
Jeff, we really appreciate your time for being our special guest today, and I appreciate you letting me ask these pointed questions. Before we wrap up, any just open advice that you would offer the professional travel advisor community at large?
Oh, gosh. How many hours is this again? So I guess there's a couple of things. Number one, okay, so I don't know how many suppliers are listening right now, but I think it's really important to be said no matter what. I think that the compensation model is ready to change. COVID, everything was pretty good beforehand. Like we could wait a year to get paid. That all changed with COVID, and the longer that it set in, it's been really, really difficult. So I think the compensation model, for all of those wonderful CFOs that are listening right now, gosh, we need help in this space, and we need it as an industry as a whole. So booking commissions, that should be a thing, not just departure commissions anymore, but booking commissions should be a thing. There have been a lot of wonderful suppliers that have come along now, actually, in the last year or so, and started offering those things. Not everybody, but this is just an industry change. Google doesn't wait till departure to collect money on the clicks that it sends to websites. So we probably shouldn't either. For travel advisors that are on the phone today, gosh, this has been a slog. Like it's unquestionably been maybe the most difficult thing that you've experienced in your professional careers. And so maybe you've got to tap into maybe these really difficult personal experiences that you may have gone through to like be able to see light at the end of the tunnel and find hope. But I would just say like, we're on the precipice of the industry going through this like massive renaissance. And so I would just encourage you all just hang in there. It's been really tough. It's not over yet, but we're really, really, really close. And I think that when you go through something this difficult, you find that people change their behavior. You find that they operate a little bit differently. Sometimes you kind of find that people that may not have been a fit for this industry aren't here anymore. And so there's lots of opportunity that opens up as a result of that. So just hang in there. Like we're getting closer and closer. And once we can say COVID is behind us, this is going to be the industry to be in.
I think it's going to be a pretty amazing golden period coming up myself, Jeff. Jeff Anderson, everyone, Avoya Travel's co-president and our featured guest today on Deck with Avoya, your weekly travel update. Jeff, thanks so much again for making yourself available for our discussion.
Chris, thank you for having me. Really appreciate it. Thanks everybody for joining us today.
Next week, we're excited to bring you an episode of Meet the Network. This is going to be a great story. Brando Quinn, owner of Brando's Fun and Son Travel, an independent agency in the Avoya Travel Network, is going to join us. to recap a recent Alma Waterways sailing he was on and some amazing places they visited that were part of the movie The Sound of Music, and how that whole experience brought him into contact with an actual member of the Von Trapp family. You're not going to want to miss the details of this exciting story. So let's talk a little bit about being new to travel, because we've recently opened our new to travel program. If this is an industry, if you're hearing Jeff Anderson talk about the future of the industry and you're really excited about being part of that, and I think there's a lot of reasons to be excited about that, we've recently reopened our program, and we have the best-in-class resources that can really help you hit the ground running and build levels of success that you never thought were possible. Be your own boss, set your own hours, enjoy a flexible lifestyle. Reach out and have a conversation with one of our specialists. They would be more than happy to fill you in with all of the details. Now, what about our experienced agents? Well, we still have our 2 ongoing promotions, right? For our high-end travel professional, as we say almost every week, someone that pre-COVID was doing about $500,000 or more a year in gross sales, someone who's been seeing the phone ring, you had future travel credits and future cruise credits, and maybe as we're getting ready for this golden period of the industry, you want a better home. We would love to be that better home, and we would love to explain to you why we think we deserve to be that better home. And we're waiving the affiliation fee for those kind of agents that qualify. For agents that are trying to get to that kind of level, again, we have the resources that can help make that possible if you run a great business. So reach out, explore with complete flexibility, the long-term contract or exclusive agreement. Contact us again for eligibility and offer details. And how do you get a hold of us? Pretty easy. My email is chris.greene@avoyatravel.com. There's our phone number. You can reach us through avoyanetwork.com. You can leave us a message here on Facebook. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can leave us a message there. We just want to engage with you, share what makes us special, find out what makes you special, and see if together we can't put together an amazing shared success relationship. Again, a big thank you to my special guest, Jeff Anderson, today. Thank you to Marissa Smith, who produces our segment in the background. I thank you for taking time to be part of our broadcast today and every week. We'll be back next week at this exact same time. And until then, take care, everyone.